Hey, this is Tarence Lauchié, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this podcast, The Growth Exchange. This podcast was designed to curate conversation, dialogue, and monologue around all things growth. I believe that everything living has the potential to grow into its fullest and most maximal potential. So let's grow. Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Growth Exchange Podcast. I'm Tarence Lauchié, and we are here today to talk about all things growth. As I mentioned, this podcast is centered around the topics, the subjects, the dialogues and monologues that center on growth, personal growth and professional growth, spiritual growth, natural growth, family growth, and all of the above. My guest today is going to touch on probably about half of those things, if not all. And I'm excited that you're here today, man. I'd like for you all to welcome with me Josh Samarco from Calvin University.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dr. T. It's an honor and a privilege to be on this podcast with you.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man. And I did say Calvin University, but there's so many more dimensions to you, which we'll talk about because this podcast is not, kind of stuffy. It's more laid back, just a casual, like we were talking offline or off air, about life and about growth and development. And we met some time ago. We both do some work at Calvin, but you're the director of the Center for
Intercultural student development. Trust me, it gets me.
CISD.
That's what we love to say. We like to say the CISD because it's a long name.
Yes.
And many people have different iterations of how they say that name.
Exactly. Well, I know that's only part of who you are because there's some other dimensions to you. I stumbled across some of your writings, some of your poetry. Just your persona out there on social media is pretty big too. So you had a journey, and we'll talk a little bit about that journey. But what do you want to talk about first, man? I mean, I know it's exciting to be on a podcast and talk about, all the things that we think people want to hear. But what do you want to talk about? Let's pretend like the cameras are not here.
Yeah, I love that. I love the power of story. Yeah. I love the power of storytelling. And I love the power, as we even talked about before hopping on cameras, like a person's journey. Yeah. And the abilities and the experiences and the things that we had to overcome in our journeys is important. And I think as we share our stories, as I've shared my story intentionally over the last really 10 years in many different spaces, I've connected with so many people. And I realized in my own journey and my storytelling that I'm not the only one going through. Yeah. And I've learned so much from just sharing and being vulnerable and opening up my heart and my journey to say, like, hey, I go through that too, and I didn't know that we could talk about it.
Absolutely. Or somebody maybe in the midst of something that you've already been through, had victory in that or overcame the challenge, and now you can help them out. Yeah. And I think that primarily your role, your vocation, is that. Talk a little bit about your interaction with students in the role that you're in now, because prior to this, you also worked in higher ed. Am I correct?
Yeah. So I'll set that up with when I was 17. I was at one of the lowest places in my life at the time, and I was really desperate for change, for growth. And I was like, I got in this place of praying and crying, and really I didn't know it at the time, the spiritual term, like lamenting. Yeah. I was grieving, but I needed some hope, and I needed someone to show up. And I remember saying, God, if you are real, please send somebody in my life.
That's awesome.
I can't do it no more. Yeah. And going into my senior year of high school, we get an assistant coach because I was a basketball player. And one of our first interactions was after practice. We sit down and we get to know each other. And he started to share his story, his testimony.
Okay. You didn't know it was a testimony at the time.
I didn't know it was a testimony. I didn't have language for this stuff, Right. I'm like dude from the hood and just trying to hoop and go to school. And he testified, now that I know. And then I was just like, I saw myself in him.
Wow.
This is how crazy it was. Light-skinned dude from the hood.
He fit the demographics.
Jordans, right? And had a spiritual encounter with God that I had 5 years prior. Okay. So I'm like, is this dude a prophet?
Right.
Who are you? And for the next 7 to 8 months, he mentored me.
Sure.
Now I know he discipled me.
Yeah.
Right. And so
it's amazing that God was setting you up for that at the lowest point of your life. You end up encountering somebody who just shared their story, and you've been doing that ever since. Shout out about where you come from, though, because the school that you came from, there might be some listeners, some people you're connected with. You want to send a shout out? Or even the coach, if you like.
So I grew up in Ypsilanti.
Yes.
And but the way my neighborhood was set up, on my street, we were bused to Belleville High School. Okay. Right off 94 on the east side of the state of Michigan. Yeah. And so, yeah, back then it was a powerhouse in basketball. Now it's a powerhouse in football. They're doing really great things.
Yeah.
But that element of like him investing in me, when I gave my life to Christ, March 8th, 2005, I called
You
him.
got the date.
Oh, every year I celebrated because it was a turning point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
That's
so,
your birthday.
That's my real birthday.
Right.
Right. And so, but after that moment, I said to God, if you ever, I said, God, if you want to use me like he did in mentorship and storytelling, I want to commit to that for the rest of my life. And so post-college, 2012, he gave me that opportunity to be an intern at the church, which led to like development. And as we're talking about growth, to be a storyteller, to work with teens from all different walks of life, but also like my first start was like in the hood.
Yeah.
In Benton Harbor.
AKA youth minister.
AKA all that, man.
Yeah, youth minister, right? Or mentor youth minister.
I was so I was a youth minister, youth pastor.
Well, you represent a generation also though that had a different take on what church was. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about church because this podcast really deals with the full dimension.
I love that.
I want to talk a little bit about your therapy background and that type of thing and higher education, because that's the thing that I found the Lord or came to Christ in college. I was 19 years old. So something about those last teen years that you make manly decisions, you make decisions with your life. How did that settle for you through the years of college? You know, you left high school, went to college as a Christian. How did that work?
Yeah, it was hard.
Difficult.
None of my homies came over with me to the Christian life. So it's like,
it's like,
wow.
oh, you gonna leave us, right?
Yeah, that's no, for real. It felt like an exodus of like friendship and brotherhood. But then it was a respect level because they saw how serious I was. So some of them did come to church with me and all of that, but essentially I did feel like I was alone for a big chunk of that college experience.
Yeah.
And I was pursuing basketball. So coming out of high school, I had zero academic and zero athletic scholarships. So I walked on at a university.
Really? Where school is that?
And this was Siena Heights.
Okay.
I walked on, and that mentor went to Siena Heights, right?
Okay.
That coach. So he got me in there, and at the end of my freshman year, he calls me on the phone and says, I just got a head coaching job at a community college. I want to offer you a scholarship.
Nice.
Not because we were boys and we were tight. I actually could hoop back then.
Okay. You had the skills.
I had some skills. And so he offered me a scholarship. I went to Schoolcraft in Livonia, Michigan, right outside Detroit. Had a phenomenal year. And one day I'm driving to school. I get a call from a Division I. Perry Watson. Shout out to Perry Watson, University of Detroit Mercy.
UD, yeah.
He calls me and is like, we want to offer you a scholarship.
Wow.
And I'm with my mom driving to school, pumping gas. And I'm like, no way. So then I'm like, man, what do I sign, essentially, right? Because 2 years ago, I was depressed, juvenile delinquent, like almost in graduate high school. 2 years later,
here you are now being sought after and fulfilling some of your dreams.
There you
go. What was your objective out of high school? It wasn't necessarily just ball, I'm sure, because you went into education.
Yeah, so I knew in fourth grade that I wanted to be in education. I had my first black woman teacher.
Okay.
Saw something in me, and she would just pour love and just attention. So shout out to the black women, the educators out there. Your work matters.
Man, you know, you said a mouthful. I recently shared at an international conference the research from my doctoral dissertation. One of the findings in my dissertation was that African American males who've experienced fatherlessness or life challenges all had one thing in common, and that was a strong black woman somewhere. Their mother, an auntie, a Sunday school teacher, a counselor, a therapist, somebody who said, you can do it, black man. And I say that pejoratively, specifically, because that's the challenge that we face. I mean, if it was the other way around, you know, I'd say the same thing. But that's ironic, you know. So what was that like that she spoke into your life and said, you can do it?
She was like, there's something different about you. And she was like, you have qualities that I haven't seen in a nine-year-old. What is that? And I remember at the time, like, well, I said I'm a Christian. Right. And I said, you know, I try to be, like, respectable. And she just loved me so well. Mrs. Grant, I'll never forget her name. I wrote a poem to her about her.
One of your writings, one of your early writings.
Yeah.
Right?
And so from that moment, I said, I'm going to be an English teacher one day. So I didn't fulfill the English teaching part, but I did become adjunct instructor and teacher. in higher education, and I get to do some of that now at
What was your
Calvin
major?
University. So I was so I did fulfill the English part.
Right.
did
I was
get
going
an
to say, I
English
thought
major,
I thought your degree was in English.
but as far as teaching English in like K through 12 or higher ed, I didn't get that part. But it all worked out, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then I had my second black female teacher in 10th grade. And she would always introduce us and call us by doctor.
Yeah.
She
So
was
she
like,
was speaking into your life.
oh yeah, and I'm on my way to that. But she was like, Dr. Samarco, we don't do that in here. I need you to like straighten up.
Right.
Stop picking your shirt. Like, have some respect in my class.
Right,
And
right.
That was good, tough love that we needed. But she was speaking, planting seeds of hope into my future. So
Yeah.
those dreams was like education. Of course, playing sports. I wanted to use that as a vehicle. And writing. I've been a writer since I can early, remember.
Remember, and you love it. It sounds like you do.
I love
Well,
it.
I read some of the stuff that you posted on your blog page.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that, and we can even give people contact and they can go and check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
But talk about your expression and how you're able to do written word. Some people do
Yeah.
spoken word, which
Yep.
you probably do, but
Yep.
but some written word.
Yeah, so the way poetry started out for me was me writing poems to my mom for Mother's Day,
Nice.
birthdays, special things.
You've been a good kid, Charlie Brown, right?
Yeah, I was trying, and she to this day she loves it. And I'm like, Mom, you're the reason I got started.
Yeah.
And then as I went through a bit of trauma going from middle school to high school, I needed an outlet to process. And in 10th grade, I had a English teacher, and she's like, we're gonna work on poems, and if you want extra credit, you can share it out loud. So I remember just going, and I went to class and I shared it. And I got emotional, which I normally do, which is fine. And the class like clapped, and the teacher looked at me
Say
and was like,
what?
wow, like, thank you for sharing that. And that just instilled more hope, like, this is a healthy way for me to process. And that just led to, and then let me throw this in there too.
Sure.
I used to write poetry to girls. All right,
Of course. I was waiting for you to confess the fact that all of these influential, strong women in your life gave you a soft heart, so you was a ladies' man, probably,
yeah.
and you wrote poems.
I did. And so now,
So now you're a triple threat.
yeah, right, there you go. Use a little bit of basketball. in there.
Vocabulary, basketball, and writing poetry.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the first thing they teach you in basketball is a triple threat position, by the way.
Exactly.
But writing is so unique. You get to explore so
Yeah.
many different pathways. And
Yeah.
for me, again, it's therapy. It's a way to process. It's a way to see the world, myself, God, people. And I try to write in a way where anyone can pick it up and say, that's for me. Mm-hmm. Or like I can get something from that, or I can interact in a way.
I have to confess too, it's kind of deep. It's not just surface stuff. I think maybe because I read one of your short stories about your childhood, and in this short story, you just kind of it's prolific in that people go, you have to think about that, but it's expressive and you can tell that it comes from the heart, and you
Yeah.
probably reach hundreds, if not thousands, of people.
Yeah.
What's the platforms that people can get some of your stuff?
Yeah. Thank you for those kind words too. JoshSamarco.com. It's on there, and then Josh Samarco Substack,
Yeah.
and then Josh Samarco Instagram as well. So
We're gonna remember that name, right?
yeah, come on, and it is from the soul.
Yeah.
It always is, and it is from a deep place because philosopher theologian Henry Nouwen, however you want to say his name, he talks about being a wounded healer. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand that at the time, but I'm like, no, we have wounds, and over time, as you do therapy, as you live in brotherhood or in community, you are on this healing journey.
Sure.
So now take those wounds and be a healer with your stories. Wow. Show them the marks. You don't have to hide behind them. They're not identity markers,
Sure.
but they are markers to say, listen, I have stories to share about
Yeah, I was
this.
going to say, you're speaking to humanity. Really, we all have our human journey and our human experiences. And I was sharing with the client that I told you about in North Carolina, one of the things I opened up with is the fact that we're all people, regardless of our positions with the company, regardless of our tenure, how long we've been there, how much we get paid, or our roles. We're people. We're people doing people things, or humans being.
Yes.
Humans being,
Yes.
not humans done, humans doing, humans gonna do. It's just humans being. And in embracing that concept, we can look at the three dimensions of our existence. And I want you to just kind of weigh in on this. I believe that our physical body's the human part of us, it's our humanity. But we also have a soul, and that soul is our ability to intellect. It's our mind, our will, our emotions. But then we also have a spirit, which is the deepest part of our existence that gives us that faith connection. You sound to me like you've connected all three of those, or that you at least have visited each of those spots, did the work, as they would say,
Yeah.
and moving toward being completely whole. There's there's the Maslow's hierarchy of need, where we talk about self-actualization. That seems self-centered or egotistic, but I think there's some spirituality to understanding that your basic physical needs are met and safety, and then eventually you acquiesce to a place where you become connected to God.
Yeah.
Weigh in on that, and then we're going to take a break.
Yeah, I love the way you just set that up. That is so good, because when human needs are met, we try to meet them on our own abilities and power. And I tried to do that. Like when I went through some trauma in high school, I was trying to find security in as a way of finding security, I was really trying to survive.
Yeah.
And those survival methods led to bad decisions because I was trying to cope. I was really trying to, in a sense, heal. I was trying to find my soul work in that. And so now in the therapy that I've done really over the last 10 years, it's like, how do we connect all three? And that requires a lot of deep soul work. And, when it comes to the healing work and becoming a holistic person, you have to name the pain and you have to realize, like, I can't run away from that pain. I got to run to it.
Yeah.
And that is a very hard process to do, right? To be like, all right, I understand this in my head, but how do I get that deep into my heart? And then how do I even go deeper beyond my heart into my soul and say, there's something else here? And so I've came across a book a few years ago. I think it's from Burned Out to Loved. I may be misquoting that. And it talked about trauma-informed soul care. And that was the first time I heard about that. Where it's like, it's not just like surface-level soul care. It's like naming the trauma, naming the burnout, naming the exhaustion, and identifying that many of us as human beings, as you mentioned, we wear these as badges. Hey, Dr. T, how you been? Oh, I've been busy.
Yeah. It's
it's
overwhelming.
Yeah, that's the human doing side.
Yep.
And that's the my identity is actually in performance and work side.
Yeah.
Because if I say, what's up, how you been doing? You're like, oh, I'm just busy. Well, you're speaking to performance. You're not even speaking to yourself.
Or who you are as a person.
Or who you are as a person and your identity, right? And what that's based in. So the trauma-informed soul care is really essentially identity work. Yeah. Where did I place my identity? How was my identity shaped because of my experiences, my upbringing, the people? And how do I begin to peel back those layers?
All of those things that shaped your mind, will, and emotions, your intellectual ability. I also, and I know we're going to get there, talk often about how our spirit being, our spirit man, as they would say, has to be fed as well. And that's where our faith comes in at. And our faith has to point toward God in order to be successful. You said that yourself off air, that it has to be in the right direction, because people can believe in a chair and get nothing but a chair.
There you go.
But you believe in God, you get your dreams met. You get fulfillment. We're going to take a quick break, man. So start thinking about what you want to talk about on the next half of this. Your hat says God plus therapy. That's almost an equation. God plus therapy equals what? We'll talk about that on the other side. We're going to take a quick break, some sponsorship. I'm grateful for all of those who support this podcast, the listeners, those who share, those who like, and all of our guests. We've had probably 10, 12, I think 12 episodes, and it's exciting to be able to do this work. But listen to our sponsorship. We'll be right back. This episode has been brought to you by the Growth Center, Inc., celebrating more than 20 years of making a difference. The Growth Center's mission is to impact the community and the world through meaningful partnerships, which offer resources, life skills training, and other programs that strengthen individuals, families, and communities. The Growth Center is committed to developing a Christ-centered program that helps individuals grow in every area of their lives. It makes global impact, youth development, personal empowerment, financial fitness, and scholarship promotion. The Growth Center, Inc. at www.thegrowthcenterinc.org. Hey, welcome back. I'm talking to Josh Samarco, director. I was going to say executive director.
You're speaking something.
I know, you're going to the next level. Director of CISD, right?
Yes.
At Calvin University, but also a poet, a writer, an educator, a coach, a dad, a husband, a dad, and a dad-to-be. You want to send a shout-out to your family, man.
Yeah. So I've been married to my wife, Jasmine Samarco, of 11 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Daughter named Adeline. She'll be turning 3 next month, and then a baby boy on the way next month as well.
You probably already gave him a name too, right?
Yeah, we're wrestling between 2. And, oddly enough, we're like, I need to see him to like.
Exactly.
And I never felt that way before.
Well,
we knew
trust
for sure.
me, we did it over and over again. And every child is different. So you can have a name in your mind, but when you see the child, then you're like, yeah, that's a Josh, or that's a James, or that's a That's a Terence, you know.
So we're close to figuring out that name.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if anybody has said it, but I'm proud of you because one, you've overcome multiple stereotypes and multiple challenges that are indicative of just being a black man in America.
Yeah, thank
So congrats. And you feel a victory too, I'm sure,
I
right?
do, yeah,
Because
thank you.
you're always smiling and you got a reason to smile. Talk about
Yeah.
that. What's your reason for smiling?
Oh man, so many things. Just the journey of getting to a place of knowing who I am. That took a long, long road. Like even being introduced to the faith at a young age and introduced to God and his concept of him being a father, to reconcile that with, some of the dynamics that I had with my earthly father was a long journey. Because our filter is first our home. And the people closest to you, if they identify even in their faith of like, yeah, I'm a follower of Christ too. Well, that's where I'm learning who God is shaped to be in human form, right? And experiencing that. But the grace of God is so beautiful that he, even though I went through hardship in that relationship, he still allowed my earthly father to plant seeds that that he's still good.
Absolutely.
And that I can still journey and get to know him. And when I get to know him, I get to know myself.
There you go.
And so that identity piece has brought me so far in life. And it's allowed me to be secure in who I am. So any room I step in, I no longer have to perform.
Right.
I don't have to put on for anybody.
Right.
I can be myself wherever I'm at in the world.
And you don't even have to conquer or dispel the stereotypes. You can just be you.
I can be me.
Which is in opposition of those stereotypes. I'm glad you mentioned that healing work, specifically the necessity of men to heal that wound or that God-sized void that fathers help to leave open. My research, as I mentioned off air as well, for my doctoral degree had to do with fatherlessness and the impact on self-efficacy and perceived personal self-esteem. You said it right out of your mouth. You know who you are. You have that confidence. What is it rooted in? I'm looking at your head right now.
Yeah.
God plus therapy equals what?
Yeah. So God plus therapy is a part of my own journey, and that's why I created the hat. It's a brand that I started called Merch That Matters to remind myself that I needed God and I needed therapy work.
Okay.
At 28 years old was the first time I sat on a couch like this with two men.
Okay.
And they journey with me, walk with me, help me name some things. They let me break down.
So you had two counselors at the same time.
Had two, yeah. I guess I needed a lot of work.
Or you was doubly blessed.
I was. I really was. I don't even know why I had to.
I was going to say it was group therapy. You didn't know it. It was group.
I don't think the guy was training. Like, these guys were like, yeah, they've been in the game a long time. That's funny you said that. I didn't really.
You didn't even think about it, huh?
No, I didn't.
But it came out for your good.
And both of these guys struggled with their earthly dads and fatherlessness.
Yeah.
And they allowed me to just sit there, and they poured into me, and they listened to me. They let me cry, and they let me heal. Yeah. And that was the first start of that journey. So God plus therapy equals really a healing journey.
I agree.
We never stop healing on this side.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The realization of the need to talk about your issues, if you're going to be tough, you're going to be strong, you're going to go through the challenges, you usually keep quiet, but you seem to be very open about discussing challenges. When you encounter students, what are some of the common threads, there that you're able to share with them?
Yeah, as we mentioned, even offline a little bit, is the eye contact. And I used to struggle with that. But I had my fourth grade basketball coach. He was a black man. And he said, young men, the first thing you do is you look someone in the eyes, you greet them, and you give them a firm shake.
That's right.
Never forgot that.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes I'll go into a one-on-one meeting and I'm met with or a look away or a mumbling of the name. And I'm sure I had that part of mine, but I'm like, hey, it's okay. And I'll say this in meetings. It's okay to look at me.
Yeah.
It's okay for us to have eye contact. And I know that can feel uncomfortable at times, but as you do it enough, as you know yourself more, become confident in your voice, you'll feel okay going into rooms and shaking hands and looking people in the eyes. Yeah. And so a lot of students deal with insecurity, which as we go back to, the human needs part, that's a lot of people's journey. And then insecurity can lead to shame. And shame is always rooted in something. And to me, shame is rooted in lies that you believe about yourself.
Sure. Because
maybe something was projected on you or you experienced something. So there's an exercise that I like to do, and it's not an easy one. It actually came from the two guys who led me so well, is naming 3 lies about yourself. And then trying to figure out the root of where those lies came from.
Wow.
And at the core of it, as we already mentioned, a lot of it comes from home. And so,
Those formative years, sometimes those lies are shaped based on voids of conversation. Nobody said anything, so you just believe something else. Or somebody said something, you identified with it, and it was not really who you have come to be. It's like, oh, you dumb, you're gonna always be dumb, or you tall or you short, or people have a tendency to speak things over children's lives or young people's lives and don't realize that goes with them for many, many years until they make this discovery that you're talking about right now, that those are lies.
yeah. And so when there was a situation that happened in my formative years, and in this counseling session, we talked about it, and then the gentleman said, "What lies did you believe about yourself?" And I was able to name them, and it just felt like scales fell off.
Nice.
When I left that session, I couldn't even drive. I had to pull into like a hotel parking lot and just sit there.
Sit there until you.
My body was having a reaction that I've been carrying this deep woundedness and trauma and lies, and it became my filter for so long.
Yeah.
We like to put filters on,
You mentioned filters twice, and I think as humans, we want to be politically correct, and everything's got to be nice and packaged.
Yeah.
With filters.
Yeah, and so that experience and the exercise that I do is like, if you can name this would transform your life.
Yeah.
And so recently, like a week ago, I was in a group of young guys, some men, and I wasn't expecting the reception to be received so well, because it was really a short amount of time. But one of the young men, he just seen it come over. He named it.
Wow.
And he basically screamed, like when Joseph in Scripture, if you're familiar, I think it's Genesis 50. I may be misquoting that one, but he runs to the bathroom because he's so hurt, and it says he's just let out this scream. So this young man having this moment, I'm like, I heard that scream before. One from me, but from others.
I think you're talking about the time when Joseph is confronted by his family, or his family comes to Egypt, and he's in Pharaoh's house, and they don't know who he is, but he knows who he is, or that's a moment of discovery when the lie that he was living had to be unfurled.
Yep.
But he could have been angry.
Yep.
He could have been upset. He could have been revengeful, but instead he dealt with it.
Yep. And even in that moment, he was able to process his emotion, and it was a scream. And sometimes what you got to do. So this young man, he let it out, and then he says, man, I thought I wasn't enough.
Wow.
That was his.
That's deep.
I never felt like I was enough.
Wow.
And so I've been there before. And so like in this journey of naming, it takes some work. But it's going to get you somewhere. Yeah. And that is, I want to say that's a guarantee, like it's an ad, but it is like a guarantee that you will get somewhere in the process.
Well, it's good, though, that you're testifying to it. And that's basically what it is a testimony. I'm a firm believer of adding scripture or referencing scripture, just like you did with Joseph. There's a scripture that talks specifically about overcoming the enemy of our life by the blood of the Lamb and then by the word of our testimony. What you're testifying, I think, serves as strong power for someone, because words are powerful, and we were talking a little bit about the power of words. Your vocabulary, the ability to speak and communicate, the eye contact, because communication is only a percentage of what you say. It's a larger percentage of how they see you doing it and the aesthetics of it. Your nonverbals, like I'm using my hands now, but your body language and all of those things, you get that. You understand that. What would you say to somebody listening, how to really be conscious of that, or conscientious in whatever field they're working in or whatever stage they're in life? Because they may be at the God part without the therapy, or at the therapy without the God part, But what would you say about pulling that whole self, the communication, the eye contact, the spoken word, the ability to speak?
Yeah, I would say like what you see today is really just essentially hard work and being vulnerable enough to say, help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, like, at times that I was saying help me until people were advocating for me. They were helping me because they saw, like, this dude is, like, cool, or we see him going somewhere.
He's trying.
He's trying. We love his story, so I'm going to advocate on your behalf. So get around people that, like, are advocates for you. And they'll start doing that, and then they'll lean in or bring you in and say, listen, here's how you can ask for help. And I had to have people do that for me and model it, and it's like, okay, here's a good, clear next step for me. And then I would say, like, in the educational world, we spend a lot of time with intellect and, IQ. But what I've learned over the years, that emotional.
It's EQ, your emotional quotient, yes.
That emotional portion of it is so valuable.
Oh,
And that's
absolutely.
really like led me to spaces where people were like, you got a relationship with this person? Yeah, because I treat them as a human being and I see them as, a human being. I treat them with respect. I'm just like, I'm not trying to perform for them. And that builds over time though, right? But I think
Well, it builds trust. We have to stop there and talk about that because that's the lack of trust is what breaches conversation. It breaches relationship. It breaches the progress and our personal growth. When there's no trust, we don't trust ourselves. There's a motivational speaker, Myron Golden, that talks a little bit about trust. And when
Okay.
you let yourself down and you can't trust yourself, you are lied to you and to everybody else.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you can build trust in that affirmation of somebody pointing you in the right direction or accepting you for just who you are, and then looking and seeing some potential in you.
Yeah, and I talk about that often too. Like, when you meet someone new or you get to know someone, oftentimes in our human nature, we do it off of like agenda base. Like, I got an agenda that I'm trying to meet.
Transactional.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, it's built on transactional relationships.
Yeah.
But transformational relationships is built on, I want to get to know you.
You talking my language.
I know. We on a growth exchange,
Exactly,
These are-
man.
this is-
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah. I hope the listeners are being just as blessed as I am.
Let's go, man.
Yeah,
This
that's
is,
good.
this is as I saw some of your work in the
Yeah.
doctoral work and all that. Like, that's right up my lane too.
Sure.
Of like, man, this stuff matters, especially with young men, and in our context, young black men in the way we grew up. They never had. A lot of people didn't have this. They didn't have people or people that's been somewhere, been through something, can bring vocabulary, can
Yeah.
understand context,
Yeah.
and then like meet people where they are. But then like, let me bring you along.
Yeah, because that's the goal, is to go up,
And
keep
even beyond
pressing.
us, right? Like,
Exactly.
I'm trying to pour into you, and you go pour into the next generation. And y'all continue to do better than what we did.
Sure. I think that that's noble. The fruit of your labor and the fruit of that work that you talked about is obvious, the family. And that's probably not without struggle, but the future,
Yeah,
all right, the faith, right, and everything else is going to follow. I mean,
Yep.
I think that when you are real with who you are, you can reckon with God. And then once you've reconciled that, enemy can't do nothing to you.
you ain't got no stronghold no more, brother. Sorry.
What do you want? What do you want your those who are going to be listening to this or seeing clips? What do you want them to know?
Yeah, I want y'all to know that, man, there's a story in you. If you haven't identified ways on how to share that means it's being birthed, and that's exciting. That there's a story inside of you that needs to be told, that the world needs to know. And we're in a digital era. There's so many means and pathways on how to share those stories. And I would even say to people, like, as you begin to learn and name your story and learn more about yourself, document that journey, and not for others, for yourself. And guess what? God can bless that in a way where it does reach others. We're on a podcast right now.
There you go.
And so it's like, man, those doors and avenues will open, but trust the God of the process. I know we talked about trust in the process a lot, but trust the one who is in control of the process.
Now you're preaching.
And then it's a sermon close now.
Exactly.
And that
You feel your help.
Yeah, come on now. Cue the organ on the back end, all right? But that would lead you somewhere.
Sure.
It will lead you somewhere beautiful, something that you never even imagined for yourself.
Well, I think that you said it quite well, to trust the God of the process, because it is a process. And it's continual every single day in a good way. You bring a joy to it, though. Where does your joy come from?
Oh, man, it comes from the Lord. Come on.
I know.
No, but
I know.
We're
so churchy.
We're
churchy.
You set me up with that one.
I set you up. I did.
But it does come from that place, right? That's where my faith is at. That's what I'm rooted in. But it comes from like those experiences. It comes from like my hardships.
Yes.
It comes from the battles that I've shared publicly, but even behind the scenes. And realizing, like, man, I'm about to be 38 next month. I'm getting closer to 40.
Really?
Yeah, I'm getting up there, and
You
I love
catching
it.
up with me?
I
No.
am. I'm running.
I'll be here when you get there.
Let's go. I appreciate that. But it does come from, like, I'm an overcomer. I am resilient.
Amen.
And that comes from a place of, like, there's joy in this life despite my trauma, my hardships, but they're not labels. They're just a part of the story.
There you go.
That I get to live out every single day.
I don't get that from you. I don't get that. Okay, I had this trauma, and that's people play their aces. I'm working on some publishing and aces. The aces would be their adverse childhood experiences, and people play those like a game of Uno, And it's like, you can't win playing the aces. If you're gonna play them though, play them so that you can get rid of them, so that they can get out of your life, as opposed to holding on to them.
And help some other people with that.
That's the bottom line.
That's it. I want to live a life of servanthood. I want to be a servant leader for the rest of my life. Like I said when I was 17, if I can be a mentor advocate for the rest of my life, I want to do that. And I've been doing that all of my professional years.
Yeah. How'd you land in Grand Rapids?
Yeah. Great question. So I was a pastor for 10 years, and we were at a church down south, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And just our season was closing there. Wifey was pregnant, and we were just trying to figure out, do we stay there? God, where are you leading us? And then I got an offer to come to Grand Rapids to work for a local church here. So that's what got us to Grand Rapids. That didn't end up working out. Our daughter came, and I took a step back. And then that led to like, all right, well, what do you have for me? And then, Calvin, the door was open there. And so, I've been there for 2.5 years.
Yeah, and doing a great job. The students that I encounter speak very, very highly of you.
I appreciate that.
And they're comfortable, in identifying with, somebody who works for the university. Sometimes there's this distance between students and faculty or administrators.
That power dynamic is real.
It's real, but they relate to you. And I've talked to quite a few of them on a one-on-one as a partnering pastor. So my role is even different, from that. But we share some things in common. All things growth for sure.
Yes.
Maybe you can give us a quote from your writings or something relating to growth.
Oh, man.
And then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, that's really good. Oh, so here's my thing with writing, my own writing, is that I'm not great at memorization, memorizing like my work. But my most recent work was Wash Me in a Black Robe.
Yes.
And because you went on a pilgrimage.
I did.
Last year, and I went on that pilgrimage this year, and as a reflecting point, it was more so about identity and how, like, if you think about baptism, usually you put on a white robe.
Yes.
And it's like, man, but I want to identify with my Black identity.
Okay.
And not just this white purity thing.
That's
so
right.
It's like, what does it mean to put on
which
a black robe?
Which was colonial thinking in the first place.
Yeah, so I was trying to do like this play on like what we've been brought up in.
Yes.
But also like this redemption side of things of like, here's a way to think about growth in your own spirituality.
Sure.
And to see your faith being lived out in the context of your own skin. And so that's the growth. I don't have it memorized.
That's deep, though. It's deep, and it's unapologetic. That's two things that I've picked up even in our conversation, is that you're unapologetically a Christian and you're unapologetically a Black man.
Yeah.
And those two things you don't have to apologize for.
No, they coexist.
Yeah, they coexist.
They're me.
And you don't have to ask for permission.
No.
And that's the radical in me. I was born in the 1900s. So in the 60s, late 60s, where I grew up around that, the power thing. Yeah. But the Black identity is vital.
Yeah.
You're on a way, I think, to other levels of success.
I appreciate that.
You've accomplished a master's level. Are you thinking about a doctorate degree?
Yeah. So I got a master's in ministerial leadership, and I'm actually now looking at a master's in social work because of these type of conversations.
Sure.
I want to continue that field and potentially do license counseling.
Yeah, it lights you up. I can tell.
It does. and I've been trying to figure out that next piece over the next 10 years of my life, and I'm like, I believe this is the route to go.
So your teacher was correct.
Yes.
It was Dr. Samarco.
Yeah, so we're gonna get there, and I can't wait to one day say thank you to that teacher, Mrs. Myrie, for calling me Dr. Samarco.
I'm in your corner, man. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for sharing the story. I would love to have you back. That's one thing about all the guests. I'm kind of setting it up so that we can have continued and ongoing conversations from where we left off, but even as new developments occur in your life and as you grow to the next stage. But we'll talk about you preaching after when we get offline.
So yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here,
honor
man.
And pleasure.
Listen, you've been listening to another Growth Exchange podcast with Dr. Tarence Lauchié and Joshua Samarco. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Growth Exchange. I'm Dr. Tarence Lauchié. It's been a pleasure to have these conversations and dialogues with our guests. If you notice, one thing we all share in common, and that is the ability, the desire, and the potential to grow and maximize our fullest potential. So keep tuning in. Share this with somebody, like it, maybe even invite somebody. And if you'd like to be a guest, contact us with the information that's here and available for you. Let's grow.